Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a review on the last Domestika course that I took, and the video itself was sponsored by Domestika, but they didn't give me any talking points. They just asked me to do a review on any of the courses that I've taken. So if you guys are not familiar with Domestika, they are a community where you can find creative courses taught by industry professionals. I really love Domestika. I've taken I think close to 10 courses on there, and if it wasn't so busy, I think I would just be taking more. So the one I'm going to be talking about is called The Basic Principles of Drawing People from Imagination, and I wanted to talk about this one specifically because I feel like it's different from the other courses that I've taken, whereas the other ones are maybe focused on the painting side of my work and creative illustration. This one is something that I've always wanted to do and is a skill that I've always wanted to learn. And this one is so technical. It's almost like retraining your brain to see in 3D. So more like it trains you to be aware of the 3D space so that it's easier to translate ideas from our imagination onto form and on paper. So one thing that I really like about it is the teacher, Tom Fox. He started drawing as an adult, which I just find so fascinating that he's already so good at it. So it's almost a little bit humbling and maybe a little bit sad to learn so much from someone who's been drawing for lesser time than me. But I've always found it, I think, easier to learn from people who have just gone through a lot of more very conscious learning and practice, which is what he did, versus someone who's maybe like me, who's just learned a lot from doing things repeatedly and as a result of a hobby. So because he learned so much from the teachers himself, I think that's what really made the course so good. The course itself was very smooth and it's just packed with so much information. I think out of all of the courses I've taken, this one maybe has the potential to teach you the most. I really couldn't believe how much he was able to fit inside this course, all the way from the box mannequin to how you draw clothes, which is something that you guys have always asked me to teach you, and is something that I've never known how to teach. So I would recommend taking this course, then waiting for me to do a clothing tutorial, because it's just not something that I'm good at, or at least it's not something that I'm good at explaining. So there's drawing clothes, and then there's adding lighting, and also just rearranging the elements of a piece when you're building stuff from imagination and learning about perspective and all that. So it was just crazy how much I learned from this course. And I think out of all the ones I've taken, this one would be what I would recommend if I could just recommend one. I think this one would be great for beginners, and especially if it's someone who's just starting to get into drawing. I would recommend this course over the other ones that I've taken. It's not really that it's only for beginners, because I'm not a beginner, but it's mostly because I wish I had this when I was starting, because I think it really would have made my progress so much easier if this was how I was taught to draw in the first place. So these were the sketches that I did on while I was taking the course. So you can see a lot of it is done on my sketchbook and with my pen. Most of it is just really to see things in 3D and learning to make my drawings look less one-dimensional. I especially focus a lot on arranging the box mannequin, especially because I'm really interested in drawing people. And then I also have a few sketches just drawn on my iPad, which is what I use as a digital sketchbook. And over on here, there's a few New Jeans fan art, because at the time I was really obsessed with New Jeans. And I also just wanted to practice more on arranging so many characters into one frame. I didn't end up doing this for the actual video, just because I feel like it's a bit more advanced for me to transfer this into a traditional painting. So there's so many things like the lighting I needed to figure out, and it also just takes so much time for me to do it in a proper video, and I don't think I could fit it in my regular video format. So for this video, I decided to go with something a lot more simple. So it's just one person, and after I figured out the angles and the pose for her, I decided to just do this as a very light watercolor painting. So now we're going to talk about the painting process for this, and for this sketch, the paper that I'm using is my SMLT art stone book, which I almost forgot about, sadly, which is so frustrating because it's one of my favorite sketchbooks to use for watercolors. And so yeah, I found it again from storage and I finally got to use it. This is such great paper, and I did a review on it, so if you guys want to see it, it will be linked in the description. The watercolors that I'm using for this one is actually all of the colors that I liked from my multiple Prima watercolor sets. So these are just all of the colors that I liked from, I think, 4 of the sets that I have. My initial idea for the piece was actually to use some of these muted colors in my palette, which is funny because I did end up eventually using some very bright and saturated colors. But when I first started actually in the skin tones, I used a lot of earth, which if you just look at it, it's very green, and it's a very muted green. It's almost greenish brown. So I first started using those colors for the piece, but in the end I think that the skin tones especially just look like a very basic skin tone, which I just feel like if I'm left alone to build a piece from start to finish, and especially with the coloring they use in the colors, and also I think just with the lighting, which in the end I think worked for me because I've started filming this video 2 times before I just ended with this piece. Those first few times I made them overcomplicated, and so it was hard to eventually build up off of that. I think when I start a piece, it's not as hard. So when I'm just positioning the people in the painting or just figuring out the very basic lighting, it's not as hard as I thought it would be. But it's in those making up the details after, and on top of that, it's when things become too complicated for me, and I think it's just too advanced for me personally. This one being so simple just worked out in the end, and I think I was able to get a piece that I was really happy with, and I think still showcased what I learned from the course, but also still maintaining an artwork that looks like mine and fits well with my style. There is one thing where I was gonna add a lot more elements in the background, just to highlight what I did when I was taking the course. I just drew a lot of things that I can see on my desk, so I can see if I can figure out how to make it look 3-dimensional. But in the end, I didn't do that. It was just so hard to position things that aren't people, surprisingly. It's the items themselves that gave me a hard time, much less than figuring out how to draw the people that are in the foreground. But yeah, so this is a lot more simple. In the end, I actually skipped the black outlines altogether. I was gonna initially have this look like the artwork from my last live stream where it was very line work heavy. So instead of that, I actually went the opposite, where I decided to go heavy on the highlights with my Copic opaque white. And so I think that was the only way that this painting looked different from my other paintings. I'm still not 100% sure if it was a good idea, but I do really like it, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching me paint it too. If you guys want to take the course that I'm taking, I will have a specific link to that exact course in the description of this video, and also a few others that I like and will be linking in the description as well. If you guys want to see more real-time artworks and studies, I have them up on my Patreon. For this month, it's going to be a little bit more interesting because I'm doing a full anatomy video on my Patreon. So if you guys want to see that, it will be in the description as well. Thank you to my patrons for supporting me. Thank you to you guys for watching, and I will be seeing you guys again soon.